Donald Trump wants us distracted, whether it be from his breakup with Elon, his disgusting and dangerous agenda, or all of the chaos that is coming out of his administration. He will do anything to divert our attention, and that includes sicking his mass thugs on peaceful protesters in Los Angeles. This is all a scheme for Donald Trump to try to distract us. But it's not just attacks on those who Donald Trump views as the enemy. He's also going after members of his own administration, because after a top official went public with one of the biggest failures of Donald Trump's presidency surrounding Elon Musk, yes, the man who just broke up with Trump, he was fired. We're going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way in supporting the work that we are doing on this channel. Now, before we can get into this breaking story, I want to start with a person who is directing our attention back to Trump's failures. That's Senator Chris Murphy in this clip right here.
Give us a sense as to what you see of it, and also what you're hearing from your Republican colleagues there, who a week or so back, as it was finishing up in the House, made clear they had some reservations.
Well, of course they have reservations. This is a bill that will ruin people's lives all across the country. You're talking, as I mentioned, about a bill that would throw 15 million people off of their health care. And for what? In order to fund a new massive tax cut for the wealthy and corporations? The richest Americans would get reportedly a $270,000 tax cut from this bill. And the bill would actually make 40% of the American public poorer, because the tax cuts for the poor and the middle class are like table scraps. But they'd lose their nutrition benefits for their kids. They'd lose their health care. They'd lose a whole bunch of services. Yes, I think Republicans are taking a look at this and wondering whether they can survive re-election. And so there is a chance that we can get the 4 votes in the Senate we need to stop this abomination of a bill. But it does require us talking about it. There was a CBS poll in the last week that suggested only about 30% of Americans know that there's a piece of legislation in front of the Congress that would do this much damage to the economy. So that makes sense. Donald Trump's going to distract you with a fight with Elon Musk. He's going to distract you with National Guard troops, because he knows that if only 30 or 40% of the American public know that he's about to throw 15 million people off of their health care, working families, then maybe Republicans won't be under the kind of pressure that they should be under to stop it.
Senator Chris Murphy is doing something in that clip that I think a lot of Democrats have struggled to do, which is connect to ideas. It's crazy that our elected officials sometimes can't communicate well enough to connect to whole ideas, but Chris Murphy has been going all across the mainstream media and doing shows like this saying, yes, of course, what is happening in Los Angeles is the big story right now. It is a disgusting fascistic attack. But it is Donald Trump's attempt to distract us from what is happening over here, whether it be with his failing budget or his breakup with Elon. But Donald Trump can't distract that much, because he was asked about his breakup with Elon and how Elon got physical in the Oval Office. A little bit of context that we need before we get into this story.
Are you going to get rid of the Tesla and the Starlink service that you have here at the White House?
No, I haven't heard that. I mean, I may move the Tesla around a little bit, but I don't think we'll be doing that with Starlink. It's a good service.
Where are you going to move it to? Move it around, what do you mean?
I have a lot of locations.
Actually, about the Tesla.
I had so many locations, I don't know what to do with them all.
About the Tesla, did you ever see Elon Musk get physical with the Treasury Secretary?
No, I didn't.
And I tried to
They
ask...
did have an argument, but I didn't see I didn't see a lot of physicality there.
And there was this New York Times report that he did not want to talk about, Elon Musk, that alleged that he, towards the end of his time in the White House, was blurring the lines between recreational use of drugs and medicinal. Do you think he ever had drugs here at the White House?
I really don't know. I don't think so. I hope not. Look, I wish him well. You understand. We had a good relationship, and I just wish him well. Very well, actually. Yeah.
Is it just me, or does Donald Trump sound like I did after my wisdom teeth got taken out all the time? He's loopy. What do you mean you have so many places to put a Tesla, so many locations? What is he even saying anymore? This is the really scary thing about Donald Trump taking all of the power in the executive branch of government, really Donald Trump trying to take all the power in the federal government and just put it with himself, is because as he becomes more of a dictator, he also becomes more deranged, more cognitively in decline. It is incredibly scary. It's why we see him lash out so much, including against those in his own administration, which is what we just saw after a top aide got fired for going public with this. Doge fires operative after he admits the government was already pretty efficient. One of Elon Musk's Doge bags discovered that the government had far less glut than he'd banked on, and tellingly admitting as much as publicly got him fired. A tech founder and Earnestwell software engineer with Musk's Department of Government Efficiency revealed in a recent blog post that he had gotten the boot from the agency after telling Fast Company last month that the federal workforce had turned out to be way more efficient than he anticipated. In that initial interview, the Gumroad founder said he was impressed to find his co-workers at the Department of Veterans Affairs loved their jobs and worked hard at them, an honest admission that seemed to have cost him his job. Just a day after the Fastco interview was published, Lavagina found that his access to the VA's computer networks, presumably, had been revoked without warning. My Doge days, the jilted techie wrote, were over. Lavagina also revealed in the blog post, which detailed his 50-day tenure at the agency, that he didn't end up getting much done. A slap in the face to the agency's mandate to save taxpayer dollars, that's not true, and abolish the tyranny of bureaucracy, as Musk put it earlier this year. I didn't make any progress on improving the user experience of veterans filing disability claims or automating, speeding up claims processing like I had hoped to when I started, the former Doge staffer lamented. I built several prototypes but was never able to get approval to ship anything to production that would actually improve American lives, while also saving money for the American taxpayer. He also suggested that Doge staffers were more like middle managers than actual workers. Doge was more like having McKinsey volunteers embedded in agencies rather than the revolutionary foresight imagined. We always knew that Doge was a joke, but being so upset with that going public that this administration fired this Doge employee, I have no sympathy for him. He joined all the other Doge bags, so sorry, buddy. Karma. You didn't think Elon Musk was going to be able to get the job done? Of course Elon Musk was going to be able to get the job done. I don't know why these people think so highly of him, but they clearly don't anymore because he's a failure. That is what everything that has come out of the Donald Trump administration has been. It is a failure. That is why he is working so hard to distract us. And of course, we cannot stop focusing on what is happening in LA because we have to call it out. And Ari Melber did a great job in doing so and breaking down the latest. I want to keep you all updated. So let's take a look at what's going on in Los Angeles.
The Marines now will support, reportedly, what are still hundreds of National Guard troops that are on the ground in L.A. under the Trump order and during the objection of the California governor, Gavin Newsom. He's now filed a lawsuit on that front as well, and we're going to run through all of that with you tonight. But a little historical context. This is the first time a United States president has had to clash with or ignore a governor in the deployment of the National Guard all the way back to 1965. The circumstances then quite different after years of back and forth and cases and lawsuits and new federal legislation. President Johnson ultimately made what was then still a very big move to send troops to Alabama without a governor's collaboration in order to protect the civil rights under law that had been established by both federal legislation and years of case law. The point being, whatever one thinks about the immigration issues in our country today, there is no recent precedent whatsoever for a president bringing out the Guard the way Donald Trump did quite quickly this weekend. Now, critics say the goal here, what we continue to see, is not actually about immigration, but about an effort documented and sometimes admitted by President Trump in the second term to expand his authority, to test his legal powers, and at times to exert a kind of autocratic intimidation campaign that includes arresting critics, threatening people who disagree, trampling on First Amendment and free speech rights, and saying, as he did today, that the opposition can be arrested for little to no reason at all. That is both the criticism and at times the confession from the Trump administration. Having reported that, this is also complicated because there are ways that immigration powers are stronger and broader than other powers the president has. And there were reports of some violence and thus lawlessness over the weekend. Now, top local officials say that violent incidents did occur, and we've documented that. The news has reported that basically from its inception over the weekend, but that those were under control. That is to say, there was no need for a federal National Guard emergency response. And in addition, the largest number of protesters over what is now these 3+ days have been peaceful. Now, here's that lawsuit. California is formally suing the president, saying that he legally overstepped his authority, invoking this law to send in troops, using the same kind of war powers or extreme claims that we've seen already rejected in different immigration contexts by the Supreme Court. Because in order to do this, the president and his lawyers are basically arguing that there is some sort of actual invasion or rebellion. There is no actual rebellion under the legal case law and what that term has always meant. There are instead protests, which is a First Amendment constitutionally protected right. The New York Times notes the situation has all the elements that the president seeks, a showdown with a top rival in a deep blue state over an issue core to his agenda. Trump also attacked Governor Newsom today and made what are clearly outrageous types of statements. In other words, whether we are accustomed 130 days into the second term or not, whether we are accustomed to this, whether we've heard this. We saw the president last week threatening his one-time ally, Elon Musk, with the type of retaliation that would typically be unlawful, if not outright illegal, going after somebody's businesses for their free speech. Well, here is what the president admits he's okay with or could do against a Democratic opponent.
What crime has Governor Newsom committed?
A crime has he committed?
Yeah, to warrant his arrest, as you had
I think his
suggested earlier.
primary crime is running for governor because he's done such a bad job.
No actual answer there. You could call it a joke, but at a time where multiple Democratic officials have been arrested, some cases dropped, some continue, not much of a joke theme to land there. Now, the president is testing his powers. Moments ago, labor leader David Huerta was released from custody after being held for 3 nights in detention. He was charged with a felony of conspiracy to impede an officer. Now, he is speaking now, and we're going to keep an eye on all of these breaking developments here, as it is, of course, an ongoing scene, although not necessarily the emergency that the president has sometimes suggested over the weekend.
While I have said, and it is true, that we need to be talking about all that is happening in Donald Trump's administration, I think that chaos and incompetence ring really, really true. And we see chaos here. Remember when Republicans would describe the chaos of Donald Trump's first administration as liberals freaking out over the mean tweets? Oh, we got so upset about the mean tweets. These aren't mean tweets. These are assaults on peaceful protesters that are uprooting the city of Los Angeles, all because of Donald Trump and his little temper tantrums. That's chaos that no one wants. And that's why we got to keep calling it out, because it's going to affect your life one way or another next. And if you want to support our mission in doing so, as independent media is so important right now, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.